Good afternoon. My name is Nathan Talley, and this presentation is based off a report generated for the Business Communication class, Missouri State University, on marijuana and why it should be legalized for medicinal and recreational purposes. This report was designed to analyze the effect, or the direct and indirect effects of legalizing marijuana for medicinal and recreational use. This study seeks to specifically answer the following questions. What tax and other revenues have resulted in the states that have legalized marijuana for medicinal and recreational use? How many jobs may be attributed to industry as a result of the legalization? What additional effects might the legalization have outside the direct economic impact? The topic of legalization of marijuana came about when discussing with some fellow military veterans whether the Veterans Administration would ever prescribe medical marijuana to treat PTSD or other medical issues, such as pain issues and everything else as well. The summation of those involved in the conversation was that the VA would not, due to its role as a federally funded administration. I set out to find what kind of benefit the government would stand to gain if they did legalize the use of marijuana, medically or otherwise. For anyone who may not know the history of how marijuana came to be illegal, there's an interesting story as to how it came to be classified as a Schedule I illegal substance. Marijuana was first regulated in 1937 with the Marijuana Tax Act, mainly because Congress thought it would be less challenging to tax it than pass a law to actually outlaw it at that time. In effect, that is what it actually did, though. That's what it led to. In 1952, the Boggs Act created stiff sentences for any offenses involving illegal drugs, to include marijuana. Then, in 1970, Congress passed the Controlled Substances Act, which created the framework for the differing schedules or levels of illegal drug classifications. It placed marijuana as a Schedule I, in the same category as heroin and LSD and other hard drugs. The Controlled Substances Act was a part of Nixon's war on drugs. In 1972, the Schaefer Commission, an investigative body appointed by Nixon, recommended that marijuana be decriminalized and thus removed from Schedule I. Nixon vehemently rejected the Commission's report. Marijuana's criminalization wasn't so much due to the medical, scientific, or legal opinion so much as to the culture with which it was associated with. Since the criminalization of marijuana, people have been pressing to have it legalized and removed from the same classification as hard drugs, such as LSD and heroin. In 1996, California was the first to legalize marijuana for medicinal purposes on the state level. 22 other states have since followed suit. Many more states are poised to follow. Still, the full reward of the economic and other benefits won't be realized until it's federally legalized. Data for this report came from various periodicals that chronicle the history and the path to legalization that some states have already pursued. They reference various reports, such as the report Monitoring Impacts of Recreational Marijuana Legalization, generated by the Forecasting and Research Division of the Washington State Office of Financial Management. The United States can benefit from the legalization of marijuana for medicinal and recreational use. Both direct and indirect economic benefits result as shown by this in-depth report. This study was generated for the final report in the fall 2017 Business Communication class. The assignment was to select a problem or topic of interest and prepare a formal report. The conclusion was that the U.S. would benefit from the legalization of marijuana based on data obtained from numerous sources, to include the report generated by the Washington State Office of Financial Management, as well as other privately funded organizations like the Drug and Policy Alliance and the Marijuana Policy Group. Analysis of the data revealed the following benefits. Revenues. Sales for Washington in December 2014 totaled more than $17 million. Excise taxes for that month were $4.3 million. In the most recent fiscal years, recreational marijuana brought in $129 million in taxes to Colorado and $220 million in Washington. Burgeoning marijuana crops could also pave the way for other businesses to include textiles utilizing hemp from the stem of the plant. For employment, the Colorado cannabis industry is credited with funding 18,005 direct and ancillary full-time jobs in 2015. For medical benefits, data suggests medical marijuana treatment may reduce the opioid dose prescribed for pain patients. Chemicals in marijuana, called cannabinoids, have been used in at least 2 FDA-approved medications to treat things such as childhood epilepsy. For other benefits, arrests for drugs or narcotics decreased by 17% between 2012 and 2013 in Washington. In fact, all criminal activities for marijuana decreased between 2012 and 2014. Possession, the most common incident, decreased from 5,133 in 2012 to 1,918 in 2014 in Washington. After reviewing the findings, it was recommended that the U.S. government legalize marijuana for medicinal and recreational use. This would stimulate economic growth, stimulate tax revenue, provide jobs, cut down on drug-related crimes, and provide an avenue for holistic treatment outside of pharmaceutical means for medicinal purposes. That is the conclusion of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.